Welcome to the International Explainer, the channel that deciphers the forces behind today's most explosive international crises. In this episode, we go back in time to uncover a story rarely told. The secret alliance that once bound Iran and Israel, and the dramatic reversal that turned them into bitter enemies. From covert oil deals and military cooperation to proxy wars and ideological warfare. This hidden history reveals the deeper roots of a conflict that continues to shape the Middle East and the world to this day. If you want more sharp, fact-based insights into global geopolitics, hit the subscribe button and stay tuned for our upcoming investigations. Israel-Iran. The hidden history of an explosive rivalry. How Iran went from ally to enemy of Israel. 1948 to 1979. In 1948, the State of Israel was founded, and the Shah of Iran, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, adopted a pragmatic stance. Despite Iran's initial opposition to the 1947 partition of Palestine, Tehran had voted against it at the UN. In 1950, Iran became the second predominantly Muslim country, after Turkey, to officially recognize Israel. This recognition was due to shared strategic interests. The Shah, anti-communist and suspicious of Arab nationalism, saw Israel as a potential partner against the influences of Nasser's Egypt and the USSR, in line with David Ben-Gurion's doctrine of the peripheries. In the 1950s to 70s, the two countries enjoyed close diplomatic, military, and economic cooperation. Israel opened a first-rate diplomatic mission in Tehran, and Iran became its main oil supplier. Up to 40% of Israel's crude oil imports came from Iran, in exchange for Israeli weapons, technology, and agricultural products. An oil line linking Eilat to Ashkelon was even built in 1967 to carry Iranian oil to the Mediterranean. On the security front, the Savak, the Shah's feared secret police, was created in 1957 with the help of the American CIA and the Israeli Mossad. Joint projects saw the light of day, such as the Fleur program in 1977, in which Israel helped Iran develop missiles in exchange for hundreds of millions of dollars and barrels of oil. For 3 decades, this tacit alliance served the interests of both regimes, each gaining a strategic advantage: oil for Israel, arms and Western support for Iran. The fate of the Palestinians, on the other hand, was largely ignored by the Shah in favor of realpolitik. This rapprochement came to an abrupt halt in 1979. The Islamic Revolution overthrew the Shah in February of that year and brought Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini to power, establishing the Islamic Republic of Iran. The new regime immediately severed all ties with Israel. Tehran closed the Israeli mission, no longer recognized the Jewish state, and expelled the last Israelis from the country. In a highly symbolic gesture, the former Israeli embassy in Tehran was handed over to the Palestine Liberation Organization, PLO, to become the Palestine Embassy, while the surrounding square was renamed Palestine Square. This break was accompanied by a radical change in rhetoric. Khomeini placed the rejection of Israel at the heart of the new regime's ideology. He referred to Israel as the Little Satan, the Great Satan being the United States, and accused the country of occupying Jerusalem and committing genocide against the Palestinians. The Iranian leader denounced Zionism as an instrument of the oppressive West and set out to make the Palestinian cause a universal Islamic cause, transcending the Arab-Persian and Sunni-Shia divide. As early as 1979, Khomeini established Al-Quds, Jerusalem Day, every last Friday of Ramadan, calling on the masses each year to demonstrate in solidarity with occupied Palestine. This ideological shift transformed Iran from a discreet ally of Israel into a fierce adversary. Henceforth, the Islamic Republic poses as the champion of the struggle against the Zionist entity, while Israel loses a regional partner and sees in Iran the birth of a declared enemy. Iran and Israel started a proxy war across the Middle East, 1980 to 2000.
Its independence.
At the turn of the 1980s, Iranian-Israeli hostility was increasingly expressed through indirect conflicts and support for armed movements. As early as 1980, a tiny group called the Palestinian Islamic Jihad appeared in the occupied territories. Strongly inspired by the Iranian Shiite Revolution, despite its Sunni base, it became the first Palestinian Islamist organization to take up arms against Israel. Tehran made it its protégé and main financial backer, inaugurating a strategy of support for radical Palestinian factions. At the same time, a paradox played out during the Iran-Iraq War, 1980 to 1988. Although officially enemies, Israel secretly helped the new regime's Iran by delivering weapons to counter Saddam Hussein's Iraq. Around 1,500 Israeli missiles were supplied to Iran during the Iran-Iraq conflict, an operation later revealed in the Iran-Contra affair, Irangate. This clandestine collaboration, motivated by the common Iraqi enemy, contrasts with the bellicose public rhetoric. But overall, in the 1980s, the nascent Iranian-Israeli confrontation took place via third-party groups. Lebanon soon became the most emblematic terrain of this proxy war. In 1982, Israel invaded southern Lebanon in Operation Peace in Galilee, aimed at destroying PLO bases launching attacks against northern Israel. Taking advantage of the chaos of the Lebanese civil war, Iran seized the opportunity to export its Islamic Revolution to the Levant. In the summer of 1982, Ayatollah Khomeini secretly dispatched several hundred revolutionary guards, Pastaran, to Lebanese territory with the blessing of neighboring Syria, which opened the way for them. Under the aegis of an Iranian emissary, Ali Akbar Motashmapur, officially ambassador to Damascus, these Iranian military advisors trained young local Shiite militiamen. The Lebanese Hezbollah, the Party of God, was born. This pro-Iranian Shiite movement, founded clandestinely in 1982, presented itself as an Islamic resistance to the Israeli occupation of Lebanon. Armed, financed and trained by Iran, Hezbollah established itself in southern Lebanon, from where it waged a relentless guerrilla war against the Israeli army. Ambushes, rocket attacks, and suicide bombings targeted the occupying forces. Israel hit back hard, and the conflict went international. Hezbollah, and its Iranian sponsor, was accused by Tel Aviv of anti-Jewish terrorist attacks abroad, such as the massacre at the Israeli embassy in Buenos Aires in 1992, 29 dead, or the attack on the Amia Community Center in 1994, 85 dead. In Lebanon, however, Iran's strategy paid off. Despite its powerful army, Israel was bogged down by Hezbollah resistance. After 18 years of costly fighting, Tzahal finally withdrew from southern Lebanon in 2000 without having defeated the Party of God, a withdrawal perceived in the Arab world as a victory for Iran and its allies. Lebanon emerged traumatized from the years of war, but Hezbollah emerged strengthened, the only militia group authorized to keep its weapons after the civil war, with the status of victor over Israel. In the Palestinian territories, the years 1980 to 90 also saw growing Iranian influence among Islamist movements. In 1987, the First Intifada broke out, a popular Palestinian uprising against the Israeli occupation. It was against this backdrop that Hamas, acronym for Harakat al-Muqawama al-Islamiyya, the Islamic Resistance Movement, was founded. Born out of the Muslim Brotherhood in Gaza, Hamas was initially independent of Iran and supported mainly by funds from the Gulf. But after the Oslo Accords of 1993-1995, which Iran categorically rejected, Tehran drew closer to Palestinian factions opposed to the peace process. From the early 1990s, Iran became a major financial and military supporter of Hamas and Islamic Jihad, two Sunni movements that refuse to recognize Israel. Tehran provides them with money, tens of millions of dollars a year, weapons and training via the Revolutionary Guards. In exchange, these groups intensify their armed campaign against Israel. Between 1994 and 1997, a wave of suicide attacks hit Israeli cities, targeting buses, shopping centers, and civilians. Hamas and Islamic Jihad claimed responsibility for these bloody attacks, coordinated in reaction to the events of the peace process. Intelligence evidence even points to direct Iranian involvement in certain operations. For example, a suicide attack on a bus in Gaza in April 1995, 8 dead, was explicitly authorized by the Iranian intelligence minister at the time, Ali Falahian. By supporting these violent actions, Iran is sabotaging hopes of a negotiated Israeli-Palestinian peace and positioning itself as the sponsor of the camp of refusal against Israel. These 2 decades of indirect confrontation have had a profound impact on the region. In Lebanon, the emergence of Hezbollah has permanently transformed the internal balance. This pro-Iranian Shiite militia party has become one of the country's dominant political and military forces, presenting itself as the defender of Lebanese sovereignty against Israel. Southern Lebanon, evacuated by Israel in 2000, remains under the influence of Hezbollah, which maintains a large arsenal in anticipation of any future confrontation. Syria, Lebanon's neighbor and Israel's enemy since the loss of the Golan Heights in 1967, has taken advantage of its alliance with Iran to strengthen its position. Since the 1979 revolution, Hafez al-Assad has drawn closer to Tehran. Isolated as he was after the separate peace between Egypt and Israel, seeing in the Khomeinist regime a new strategic ally. In 1982, Damascus even signed a military agreement authorizing the Iranian Pasdaran to operate on its soil, making Syria the rear base for Iranian intervention in Lebanon. This Syrian-Iranian entente, based on shared hostility towards Israel, consolidated a regional axis that continues to this day. On the Palestinian side, Iran's active support for Hamas and Islamic Jihad has further millerized the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Competition between the PLO, secular and nationalist, favoring a negotiated solution, and the Iranian-backed Islamists has fractured the Palestinian camp. The territories of Gaza and the West Bank became not only the theater of confrontation with Israel, but also a field of influence where Iran sought to supplant traditional Arab influences by posing as the champion of Palestine's sacred cause. Last but not least, these developments helped to reshape the balance of power in the Middle East. After 1979, Israel had to incorporate the larger-scale threat posed by revolutionary Iran into its security doctrine, even as direct hostilities with certain Arab neighbors diminished. Peace treaty with Egypt in 1979, weakening of Iraq after 1991. Conversely, by setting itself up as an adversary of Israel, Iran gained weight in the Muslim world, but also attracted the hostility of the Gulf monarchies. At the end of the 1990s, there was a discreet rapprochement between Israel and certain moderate Sunni Arab states, worried about Iran's rise to power. Jordan, for example, signed a peace agreement with Israel in 1994, and the Gulf states began to cooperate behind the scenes with the Hebrew state in the face of the Iranian threat. This trend was only to grow. Years later, it led to open alliances such as the Abraham Accords of 2020 between Israel and several Arab monarchies, sharing a common animosity towards Iran. By 2000, the Iran-Israel opposition had become a structuring element in the regional geopolitical game. On the one hand, an axis of resistance was formed, bringing together Tehran, Damascus, the Lebanese Hezbollah, and armed Palestinian groups, all determined to oppose Israel and American influence. On the other, Israel is striving to forge new alliances to contain Iranian expansion and preserve its security. Born of a reversal of alliances in 1979, the Iranian-Israeli rivalry has profoundly reshaped the Middle East, fueling proxy conflicts and the arms race. More than 40 years after the Shah and Khomeini broke away, this unprecedented face-off between Israel and Iran continues to define, to a large extent, the dynamics of regional crises in the 21st century.
Now that you've seen how Iran and Israel went from secret allies to fierce enemies, one question remains: who's really fighting this war today? In our next episode, we'll break down the key players shaping this conflict right now, from Netanyahu and Mossad to Iran's Revolutionary Guards and their network of armed proxies. You'll also discover the hidden alliances behind the scenes, from Washington to the Gulf monarchies. To understand the full picture, don't miss this essential next chapter. Hit subscribe now and turn on notifications so you'll be first to watch, learn, and see the truth behind the headlines, only on the International Explainer.